The following program is brought to you by AARP, the power to make it better. America's Black Forum, with host Juan Williams, and the commentators Julian Bond and Deborah Mathis.
It's true. Some of the biggest businesses in Black America are under white control. There's growing concern about what some call the Black business buyout. Next on America's Black Forum.
When you think about the new Viacom, you really only have to remember a single number. That's number one. This singularly powerful enterprise will be home to the #1 cable network group here and around the globe.
Their names are a who's who of Black entrepreneurship: Essence Magazine, Black Entertainment Television, Africana.com. Just some of the companies started by Black entrepreneurs that are now owned by white corporate giants. In 2000, Black Entertainment Television was sold by founder Bob Johnson to Viacom for $3 billion. Johnson recently stepped down as chairman and CEO. In January 2005, Essence Magazine was purchased by Time Warner. The trend is alarming. Earl G. Graves, publisher of Black Enterprise, said, "Before selling, the owner should have allowed Black companies to make an offer to purchase the company. But the mindset is the reason why we as a group do not succeed. We do not look to each other for growth and opportunity as other ethnic groups have in the past and present. So why are successful Black companies for sale? And does white ownership necessarily mean the death of Black enterprise?" Hello, I'm Juan Williams. Welcome to America's Black Forum. With me today is Alfred Edmond, editor-in-chief of Black Enterprise Magazine; James Klingman, author of Blackonomics; Ephraim Perry, president of Alpha Omega Technologies Incorporated; and, of course, our own delightful syndicated columnist, Deborah Mathis. Alfred Edmond, let me begin with you. Is it true, as we asserted here, that there are many Black companies now owned by larger white corporations?
To say many might be pushing it. I think what's sensitive here is that these are brands, particularly with Essence, that have been focused on serving the Black community and has been a voice for the Black community. There are other Black-owned businesses that have been sold to white owners, but they don't cater to the Black community, so nobody even notices it. I think here it's not the quantity of the businesses, but the type of the business, particularly when they're media entities that supposedly speak for us as a people.
Now, the chairman of Black Enterprise said, what you saw on the screen a moment ago, why don't Black owners offer the businesses to other Black companies instead of allowing white corporations to buy in?
Well, he was speaking particularly in the case of Essence Communications, which I believe went for an estimated $170 million. And we are at a stage as Black business people today where there are African Americans who could have afforded that. Now, we can't speak for Essence or Ed Lewis as to why they decided to do it the way they did it. But the point was, at $170 million, that was possible. Now, for BET, $3 billion, it may be at least doubtful that there would have been somebody who could really have matched Viacom's bid for BET.
James Klingman, let me come to you then and ask, is it necessarily a bad thing for a white corporation to own a Black company, a Black brand, as Alfred Edmond described it?
In my opinion, yes. I think that if we look back in history, we can see the value of Black businesses and the sacrifices that many Black people made to have their own businesses. And when you're talking about infrastructure, business infrastructure, certainly media is right at the top of the list. And we have to be able to, in my opinion, control the messages that come from media. And I really don't believe that that kind of message or that the continuity of message that has been in Essence over the years is going to continue, because I look back at what happened at BET and what happened to their message and what things were taken off, the important things as we see them. So I think it's real important for Black people to own businesses, because I'm familiar with the history of business, Black business history in this country, and to control especially the infrastructure of business when it comes to
Mr.
media.
Klingman, in all fairness, there was lots of criticism of BET under ownership of Bob Johnson, but I think you're referring to the idea that their news department has gone just about away.
Yes.
Yes.
We don't see the lead story. I heard the 11 o'clock news is going to be taken off, and other shows that I felt were important, and I'm sure a lot of other consumers did as well, are no longer there. And once you turn over control, I mean, that's just it. You don't have control anymore.
For too
Deborah?
long, unfortunately, when we have had a chance to opportunities to grow businesses, we've been just like the incubator for a business. And soon as it starts kind of growing up and can live on its own, then it's adopted by somebody else. And that, we lose power. One of the reasons that Earl Graves is still so powerful and influential is because he created his empire and he remained the emperor. He did not sell it to somebody else. He did not send it off down the road. He understands, and I appreciate those who do it. I understand the economics of it. Some people feel that they can't, and maybe they actually can't. But he understands the importance of maintaining that as a power base and as a source and resource for the black community that will have certain sensibilities that others, it's not that they're bad people, it's just that they don't have the experience. They can't have the same
let's move beyond image for a second. Ephraim, is it also a matter of maintaining a base of employment and wealth in the black community?
Well, I think it is. We look at, in terms of BET, that has been longly debated as whether BET was an asset or a bad thing for the community itself based on the images. I love the nightly news that used to come on, but when you look at maybe a half hour to an hour out of a 24-hour period of positive and the rest people saw as negative, we look at the employment aspect of they just wanted to make the brand larger. I think the biggest loss in the black community as far as a base and structure and employment are the local newspapers, because that was the outlet that was really giving us what we needed for the community itself.
So when you look beyond this, Alfred Edmond, when you look beyond some of these bigger brands, are there smaller companies that are also being sold to large white corporations?
Yes, but what you got to do is look at it both ways. We several years ago, when Johnson Products, the hair care products company, was sold to IMAX, a white company, we had our economists look at the whole phenomenon of mergers and acquisitions in terms of black business. The reality is the growth of the largest black-owned businesses has been because black-owned companies have now been acquiring large white companies as well. And when you look at the net, the BE 100s, the nation's largest black-owned companies, have grown at such a rapid pace, faster than the Fortune 500.
Because they're buying white companies.
Because they're buying what used to be white companies.
So this goes both ways.
It absolutely goes both ways. That's why what I think is important is what James said. It's the kinds of businesses that are being sold. And the question that's going to have to be answered, particularly with Essence over the next, I would say, 5 to 10 years, is can a white-owned company truly serve the Essence mission, when in some cases the Essence mission has got to be able to criticize and even to defend their audience against these very companies.
All right, we'll have more on this topic,
Right.
hot as it is, when we return. Stay with America's Black Forum. Welcome back. I'm Juan Williams. Let me ask you, Mr. Klingham, to respond to a Pew study that showed, this is so hard to believe, in 2002, black median wealth was $5,988, about $6,000, while median wealth for whites was $88,600, so almost $89,000. Why is black wealth so low as compared to white wealth in America?
Well, I think for one thing, because we confuse, sometimes some of us confuse income with wealth. Certainly income is not wealth. And the other thing is we don't concentrate a lot on net worth. We concentrate on having material things. And, of course, a lot of that is programming from major media.
Well, why don't you tell us very quickly the difference between income and wealth? Income is what you earn from a job. Wealth is things like stocks, bonds, real estate.
Wealth is what you keep after you pay off all your bills. And we have to understand this whole notion between income and wealth if we're going to, in fact, build wealth.
Oh, so you think it's lack of economic education?
Oh, of course.
That's what it is.
Absolutely. That's why we teach entrepreneurship. I started an entrepreneurship high school, and I talk to little children about entrepreneurship and teenpreneurs. That's so sorely needed in this country, to teach our children about business ownership and about income versus wealth.
And Alfred, do you do that at Black Enterprise? I mean, is there a need for people who say, you know, how do I do this?
That's at the core of the mission of Black Enterprise. In the year 2000, at our 30th anniversary year, we launched an initiative called the Black Wealth Initiative. And anybody can call 1-877-WEALTHY or go to our website at blackenterprise.com and get their own Black Wealth Kit. And that kit talks to some of the things we're talking about: entrepreneurship, homeownership. That's really the big reason for the wealth gap. We are renting longer than we should be when we should be owning homes. That's the biggest source of individual wealth in America. So yeah, there's things that we have to teach, and Black Enterprise is about doing that. There are a lot of other great entities
But you're saying
about accumulating wealth.
renting as opposed to owning the place you live is the biggest reason for this difference between
Absolutely.
wealth of $6,000 a median in the Black community and almost $90,000 in the white community.
The biggest asset of most individual Americans is the equity in their homes.
But Ephraim, you heard just a moment ago Mr. Klingham say, well, it's a matter of values as well. You know, what you do with your money, how you have so much disposable income for fancy cars and the like. Do you believe that?
I definitely believe it. I mean, we've got to be taught and raised to want to own things rather than just rent things, or rather to just possess things. I mean, when you look at what Blacks buy, I mean, the averages and the surveys come out every year. We spend more money on clothes and entertainment and cars and things of that nature. Houses should be number one. Businesses should be at one or two.
Number two.
We've got to look at ownership, not possessing, because possessions can come and go. But when you own something, you've got control.
Well, do you feel like people are blaming Black folks for the fact that economic opportunities have been limited in the past, Deborah?
Well, to some degree, yeah, because they have in the past and they continue to be. But here's the other thing, too, that I understand so clearly about people who have had to be patient for so long and had to do without for so long. Sometimes when you finally get it, you don't want to wait anymore. And you want to go out and get that car now. And you want to go, I so understand that. I've so done that.
You mean as a family, as a generational issue? Because you see this among young people, too.
I'm just saying, as any community that has had to do without and watch other people having it all the time, there comes a time when you get that opportunity, you don't want to wait any longer, even if it doesn't really make sense. What I'm saying is that I think we need to do is explain more what the benefits of home ownership are. We just keep talking about own a home. Okay, fine. Save for a down payment. Okay, fine. But let's talk about what you get from doing that. Let's talk about, for example, that every February, you can't wait to file your taxes as soon as your W-2s come in, because you're going to get back every dime you paid out in taxes probably because of your house note and everything. Let's talk about things like that happening.
And make it attractive to people. We'll have more on America and the Black economy when we continue. Stay with us.
For America's Black Forum, provided by...
Back to America's Black Forum, I'm Juan Williams. James Klingham, you're the author of Blacknomics, and I want you to interpret what this means. I've got a statistic here on this card. It says that in 2001-2002, Blacks lost 1/4 of household wealth. Why is Black wealth declining?
Well, again, it speaks to the difference between wealth and income. If we spend everything we make, and you probably know that the last statistic said that Black people in the aggregate earn $750 billion a year.
In America.
$1 billion in this country. That's income. Some people call it spending power. I call it spending weakness, because we spend 95% of it with businesses other than our own. So if you're spending everything that you own, everything that you earn, then somebody else is living off two incomes. 100% of theirs and 95% of yours. You're always going to be low. You're always going to go down if you continue those kinds of habits. Of course, there are reasons and psychologies behind all of the things that we do with our spending habits, but we have to teach economics, we have to teach entrepreneurship and make our people understand.
Well, what is the psychology that you refer to? Why is there so much throwing away as opposed to saving of that income?
The conditioning that we've been through, and everybody in this country has been conditioned. It's not just Black people, but Black people especially have been conditioned. And as Deborah talked about earlier, we've been taught that we have, our self-esteem is found in having things. And we understand why we want things, but we have to be taught that this is not the end here. We must understand that we have to build and retain wealth as a group in the aggregate.
Alfred Edmond, I just was thinking to myself as I'm listening to Mr. Klingham speak, that there is this whole notion of delayed gratification, that you would build, and maybe as you get older, then you could enjoy the finer things. But really, it seems as if young people have a problem with the idea of delaying the big purchase.
Well, it's not just young people, because this is a problem that's a universal problem in America. But the message you have to send is, one, the earlier you start, the less money it takes. Number one.
To do what?
To build wealth. Whether you're saving money, whether you're buying a home, the earlier you buy a home, it's easier to do when you're younger, and it costs less money.
But you don't have the money when you're younger.
No, you have some money. We all have some money when we're young. I think of the money I just threw away at clubs and on clothes that I don't remember that I bought. So we have to get out of this notion that we have nothing to work with. We have less than others, but we have something. Here's the question I had to ask myself when I realized that I had been working for a very long time, making good money, and hadn't really gotten anywhere. Am I using my money to buy things or to accomplish things? Home ownership is an accomplishment. and education is an accomplishment. A new car, as nice as it may be when you drive it off the lot, is not an accomplishment. It's just a thing. And if you start framing that in that language, particularly for our kids, they will start thinking differently. There's nothing wrong with having a new car, but I also have to be accomplishing something.
Ephraim, let's very quickly, you own your own business.
Yes, I do.
How'd that happen?
Because my father was an entrepreneur, and I was raised to want to be an owner, not an employee. And his whole thing that he taught me was a strategy of, one, taking your time. My whole thing was I earned money. You know, I didn't want to do what he did. He actually owned a cleaning company for years and years and years, but he started in '68. He just retired 2 years ago. So he accomplished something. He had something. Now he can play golf 3 times a week. But own. You want to be able to control your own destiny, because if you take your time and you get it, you've got it.
Well, how old were you when you took control and owned your own company?
I started my own company when I was 29.
And how'd you do it? With your dad's money?
No, I didn't. I was in the military. I started interning. I learned the business. I dealt with contracting when I was in the military still, and I had the skills. I stepped out. He told me you need a dynamic duo, a good lawyer and a good accountant. And that's what I found. I found someone who can keep me out of jail and someone who could keep me with money. And I made sure that everything was going to be straight. I had the skills. They knew how to keep me regular, okay, and legal. We were there.
There got to be more of these good stories. We'll be back with more to tell. Stay with us. Welcome back. I'm Juan Williams. Deborah, you know, my friend Alfred Edmonds tells me only about 20% of the population is going to be an entrepreneur anyway.
Yeah.
So what happens to the other 80%? I think that's your concern.
Yeah, it is, because I do worry. I take everybody's point that the entrepreneurial spirit needs to be, we all need to have that and learn the skills, maybe. And if we have an idea, you know, know what to do in terms of bringing it to fruition. But let's accept, I don't want to turn off people, oh, they're not talking to me because I'm not having this idea. Let's accept that a lot of people are going to work for other people all their lives, but there is even a way to make that work for you.
Well, how is that?
And, well, that's what these guys are here to tell me. I'm trying to learn, sweetheart. You know, but I'm not the expert on that, but I know it works.
As the only woman on the panel, I think divorce in the black community can be debilitating in terms of wealth, because it splits up wealth.
Well, of course it can, and I mean, I think that goes across the board. I'm not one to give anybody any counsel on what to do in those terms, but of course divorce can be devastating to personal income and personal finances. And, you know, you don't want people, you don't necessarily for people to go into marriages with all kinds of contingencies and braces against divorce, because you don't want them to be thinking that way. Yet at the same time, there's a reality of, you know, having to be able to provide for children, and which usually the woman is left to do on a day-to-day basis.
Ephraim, I'm sorry, Alfred, if you are going to say something to the 80% that Deborah was talking to who aren't planning on being entrepreneurs, what would your advice be?
To recognize that, one, you need to save money, that you can't live on $1.20 for every dollar. You got to live on 90 cents of every dollar. We have a thing called the Declaration of Financial Empowerment that lists the 10 keys to building wealth. It doesn't matter whether you're a single mom, it doesn't matter whether you're divorced, 28, 58. There are 10 key principles of wealth accumulation.
And what's number 1?
Buy a home.
Buy a home and save money. But what if somebody says, but you know what, I got these credit card bills and I want to pay off the credit card bills, I can't save?
You have to still go investigate it, because there are many, many programs that are there to help you fix your credit, work with you on your credit, change your spending habits. There are a lot of programs now where you don't even have to have 20% down. You can have as little as 5% down.
Mr.
The key is you got to go look for that.
Very quick.
But wait, but that also is a step. Paying down those credit card bills is a step toward buying a home.
That's right.
So I mean, what we have to understand is that when we say buy a home, we're not talking about next year necessarily. It might take some time, but get started is what we're talking about.
And those 10 principles deal with credit, tax, budgeting, all of those things.
Yeah. That's all the time we have for now. Thanks to our guests, and of course, thanks to you for joining us. We'll see you again next week, right here on America's Black Forum.